welcome back to the Prehospital Paradigm Podcast. I'm Scott Wildenheim. We've got Ray Pace here. We are shooting a special. We are here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are at the National Collegiate EMS Foundation. Did I get it right?
Got it right.
Close enough, right? I practiced that on the way down here. We are at their annual conference, and with us, I've got down there on the end, I've got Eric Pohl, and I've got Dr. Zack here with us. And guys, so you reached out to us. I've known Eric for some time, and he says, I do this thing with this National Collegiate EMS thing, and would you guys come out and broadcast? And frankly, I had no idea what we were talking about. I'm certainly aware that there's EMS services on college campuses. We've got numerous in Northeast Ohio, and of course in the greater Cleveland area, which is where we're from. But I had no kind of idea how organized and what you guys kind of represent. So, first of all, thanks for having us. This is awesome. Wasn't but a hour and a half trip over here for us, since we're all on the east side. But tell us a little bit about what all of these people are doing here today, and why you guys have to have this conference.
Yeah, so the National Collegiate EMS Foundation, this is our annual conference. I believe it's our 32nd conference. So we've been, hit some milestones along the way. This year we have over 1,300 registered attendees, representing something like 120, 130 schools from across the country. All of those schools have some type of campus-based EMS service, whether it's startups or all the way through transporting agencies, everything from certified first responder level to ALS agencies. The foundation's role is to support advocacy for these groups and provide education through this marquee event, our conference, and then also, we have a variety of educational and different events throughout the year that we also host and provide, including some online education opportunities, some awareness, outreach things that we support. So we just want to make sure that our campus EMS providers have a place that they can come connect with their peers across the country and also learn something along the way.
Yeah, and just to kind of jump in on that, well, first of all, thank you guys for being here. This conference continues to kind of grow every single year in terms of attendees and what we're trying to offer and things like that. Campus-based EMS is a very unique kind of corner of EMS. These organizations that operate on college campuses are primarily made completely of students. They have medical directors, but they also usually are part of the student organizations. They have multiple kind of areas that they kind of answer to in terms of advisors, and some of them, once again, respond just on foot. Some have response vehicles. Some do just standby. Some are even ALS providers also. And there's even organizations that provide full medical care for Division I NCAA football stadiums during games. So it's a very kind of diverse group of students. And these are students that most of the time just volunteer their time during college as college students to do this and then go on to various different careers afterwards. Some come in as EMTs, many get trained in the organization. So they all operate very differently, and it's just a unique subset of EMS, and that's kind of what the foundation wants to promote.
Zack and I both started as collegiate EMS providers.
So that was where I wanted to go with this.
Right.
What's your personal story? Is how did you wind up here?
Yeah, so I started as a EMT, a freshman year, an 18-year-old on college campus, Columbia University in New York City. Went to EMT class that was provided on campus and joined the campus ambulance service. Eventually became a crew chief by the time I left as a senior. And it was a unique experience, as you might imagine. We were a BLS agency transporting. We had 1.5 ambulances, depending on the status of the second one, if it was in the shop or not.
Understood.
But the Columbia University campus is, in Manhattan, in New York City, served a population of something like 35,000 people. And it was this layered approach to EMS that, supplemented and enhanced, FDNY didn't need our help, right? Like,
of course, right, yeah.
Like they got things under control.
Right.
But we, as collegiate EMS providers, offered a lot more to our college campus than the nameless face that would show up in a red and white vehicle that came from the city.
Sure.
And along the way of being a collegiate EMT, eventually decided that I wanted to make that part of my career. After I graduated with my undergraduate degree in chemical engineering, all my job prospects, I said, the first thing I want to do is go to paramedic school. And that eventually, led me into some other things that I do in my career, my full-time job. I worked for the EPA doing spill response, and
Right.
It was a blend of my engineering degree, my background in college, with the emergency response experience and leadership that I learned from campus EMS, and eventually it's 20 years later, it's what I do, and I'm still involved in the foundation through those initial experiences 20 years ago.
Still your passion. That's awesome. Yeah. Doctor, how about you?
Yeah, so I actually became an EMT in high school initially. I watched a lot of medical shows on TV, and I thought maybe I want to go into college and be pre-med. So my dad said, hey, why don't you join the local ambulance squad, see if you like it? And as a 17-year-old, I said, absolutely not, I'm not going to do that. But I actually joined the next week, started really enjoying it, went through EMT class before senior year in high school. And when I started looking at colleges, I actually looked at colleges that had campus-based EMS squads. That was actually one of the factors for where I ended up applying. Ultimately, I went to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, joined the unit freshman year, kind of first semester, so I kind of was off and running, literally because we were a running unit. We ran to our calls. We had a radio in Baltimore City.
Oh, wow.
We eventually got a first response vehicle that could carry our equipment, but most of the time it would be security that brings our equipment to us other than what we can carry on our back. So did that all 4 years. I met a girl doing EMS my freshman year. Second semester, we've been married about 7 years. We ran on the unit together all 4 years. So college-based EMS not only has kind of launched my career, but personal life too. Ended up finding my wife there, and so obviously very impactful. Afterwards, I went directly into medical school. In that first year of med school, I joined NCEMSF because I had such a good experience attending NCEMSF as a student. I wanted to kind of give back, and our staff is all volunteer. We do other things in our professional lives, and went through med school and residency and fellowship in pre-hospital medicine. Now, actually, I'm a medical director for campus-based EMS. I do Muhlenberg College up in the Allentown area, in addition to Lafayette College. So I'm still involved as the medical director in campus-based EMS, in addition to doing things with NCEMSF every year.
Yeah, that was accurate. That was going to be my question: is did that evolve into you wanted to become an EMS medical director? And you're board certified in EMS and EM as well.
Correct.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So you talk about the various different. You talked about a couple of different models here, ranging from people walking to full-on transport services to ALS. How does that play with, let's say, city services or municipal services, or where's that blend line? Is there animosity? Is there sometimes some push-pull between those services, and how does that play out in your observation and maybe experience?
So I'll use an example that I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taking it back to Cleveland, right? Case Western University has a BLS transport.
Absolutely do,
ambulance. I think they have 2 ambulances and a fly car now, and they handle the campus medical calls essentially. Cleveland EMS, when they show up, to my knowledge, they're generally appreciative. That's another call they don't have to run. They don't have to write a chart there. They generally some of the advantages of the campus EMS is you have the student EMTs or student providers who are familiar with the campus, closer proximity to where the call's happening.
Sure.
Response times are, absolutely shorter.
I'd say
And
minimalistic.
then, if you get a dispatch, say, I don't know, Carlton Hall or whatever, as a 911 municipal paramedic or fire medic, or, they say, okay, well, here's the address, and then you don't realize that building is, can't get to it from the street.
Sure,
You
that's
got to
it.
walk.
Yeah, right.
Whereas the folks who take math class there, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly
Know
what
it
it is, and I
intimately,
know
sure,
where the
of course,
elevator's
yeah.
at in the building. And,
Yeah, that's true.
So generally, the campus EMS providers can start care faster, do the assessment, and again, taking it back to Case Western, who, by the way, my fiance is a former past chief of that organization, so I know a little bit. They'll do an assessment, and they can say, yeah, this is a BLS call, somebody sprained their ankle, no need for ALS or whatever, Cleveland EMS can go back in service, we got it handled. Or the other way around, Cleveland EMS will come in with their stuff and, they're pounding on somebody's chest, right?
Yep.
So, and then it's just a partnership, just like any other agency to agency experience. I've heard very few cases where there's been friction between,
Right.
The campus provider and, the municipality. Or
I would imagine that to be the case, especially your colleges that are in more you're in cities with more busy services. To your point, they're okay not doing one less call, or having some of that load shed, or having somebody with intimate knowledge or a relationship with whomever the patient is, right? As peers, as schoolmates, however you want to look at that. What, Doctor, in your mindset, what is common models, and then your personal opinion on the interplay between a service, if they're BLS only, and ALS, where do you think all that kind of fits together?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I guess what I do now at Muhlenberg College, they're a quick response unit only, so non-transport in a small city with a surrounding city unit. And one of the big things when I became medical director is I met with the students, and one of the biggest challenges in campus-based EMS is for the university and a lot of outside agencies to not just see the EMTs, the campus-based EMTs, as students, as it's a lot of people kind of just see them as, oh, this is a student organization, not necessarily a professional organization.
Right.
Don't really kind of realize these students have EMT licenses. They operate up into their state protocols. They're under medical direction, and they're providing a professional service. So that's sometimes the push and pull that we deal with, and at least at the college that I'm affiliated with now. We sat down, and one of the pinch points was, how do we better liaison with the surrounding ALS agency who comes and does all of our transport? So we actually had them starting to ride with the ALS agencies on the ambulance routinely.
Yeah.
We were able to get to the campus student leaders for the EMS organization in the same room with the city's ALS leadership, just to kind of talk and have drills on campus. They actually provided a ALS ambulance to a MCI drill that the campus was putting on, so they came in as advisors and evaluators. So really trying to bring them together, because sometimes it is a little bit of a bridge, a little bit of a divide. We had an instance, the refusals are actually the biggest thing. High-risk refusals are one of the biggest things that our ALS...
Everywhere.
Exactly. That's one of the things that keeps me up at night in general. It's not necessarily the high-acuity calls that clearly are going to go to the hospital. It's some of these people that we say, hey, we think you're okay leaving. And on college campuses, a lot of the call volume is going to be intoxication, and it's also going to be mental health emergencies. So we kind of had a discussion between the campus-based unit and the ALS agency that ALS is okay coming in doing an assessment in terms of capacity and whether patients can refuse, because there was instances campus-based EMS didn't necessarily call ALS maybe where it should be.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a situation where, as a medical director, I kind of know all the players. The campus-based agency might not, but I can get them all in the room together and talk with one another.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the ideal in my mind. You kind of also asked about what's the ideal situation for campus-based and surrounding agencies, and I think that's one of the biggest ones to have direct point of care contacts, and as the medical director, kind of serve as that link.
That bridge.
I think it's excellent just how, you open the lines of communication up between, collegiate EMS and then that surrounding agency that's serving that campus, because the students know it best, right? They're going to deliver a professional service to that patient in need faster, so if we talked about like a cardiac arrest, to your point of the response time, think of the survivability rate that's increased now because, I'm
Somebody
straight
was
around
on
the
the
corner,
chest
or that student knows a shortcut, whereas that surrounding agency might only respond to that campus once a week or, once every couple weeks. So I think it's huge that you incorporate that, decrease the friction, and then, we're all there for the right reasons. We're all there to help that patient, right? We're all there to better serve that person that's in need, no matter what their acuity is. And I just think it's excellent you're able to bring all those partners together and, deliver that service. And then on the student aspect of it, just some of those events like you touched on, sir, is just how that experience is going to be impactful to your life, whether you go that route as a career and a profession, or you're still going to take leadership skills and problem solving skills and, high stressful situations and how you're going to respond to those, out in the everyday life. And I think it's amazing that you're able to do that and bring everybody together and work together and, no different than in the vehicles that we ride and the patients that we serve. We're all there for one goal, and that's to help the patient have the best possible outcome. So I think it's awesome that you're able to do that.
Yeah, and these, campus-based EMS in general, these are 18 and 22-year-olds who are dedicating a significant portion of their time while studying and doing their degrees, and they're developing their leadership skills, they're developing communication skills, they're talking to their campus advisors, their campus administration, so they're talking, kind of learning the systems that they work in, and all those skills, I think, are translatable to whatever they do kind of afterwards, regardless if they stay in EMS or medicine or do whatever, or go in a different direction completely.
Yeah, and a lot of those little things too, and the pieces, like I would compare it to like sports medicine. It instantly comes to mind for us. So, when we do standbys for our agency, does standbys for a football game, right? How often have you met the athletic trainer that's responsible for the team, right? No different than the entity versus the collegiate entity on site there. How often do you interact? How often do you communicate? Having that common plan and that common treatment path, breaks down those communication walls. You're able to relate. You're all on the same page. It's just, it works really well together. I know I'm using a comparison with like our sports medicine, Dr. Flannery talks all about that. It's just, planning, and it was something we never really thought of until he came out with that course.
Right.
And I can tell you, when you have that injury on the field, no different when you have that injury on campus now, you're all on the same page, you know each other, you're working together, and it's just, it's excellent that you're doing that.
So I've got to imagine that anybody that kind of starts in collegiate EMS and then, uses that as a stepping stone to maybe go on to, be an advanced practice provider, paramedic, or, something field related, or in medicine, that all those contact hours mean something to either of those paths, right? Certainly as an EMS instructor myself, and Caleb and I are, we're co-instructors at the same program. We'll tell you that, an EMT coming in that has real world experience, rather than somebody coming straight out of an EMT program right into paramedic school, is going to do far better in our program, because they're learning how to be a paramedic. They're not learning how to be an EMT plus a paramedic all at the same time, right? Do you have any feel for how many people are drawn to collegiate EMS for the purpose of funneling them or furthering them in medicine versus you kind of landed medicine adjacent? Yeah, medicine adjacent with you. But, again, you said chemical engineering, that's worlds apart from medicine. Do you have any feel for how many are kind of using this as a catalyst to kind of help them drive their medicine career?
Yeah, obviously there's a path. There's people who are pre-meds and they look at this as a way to get some clinical exposure.
Sure.
And and eventually go into a true medicine career. I don't know what we've tried to do some research on this from the foundation aspect, and it's landed, maybe not as high as you might think.
Oh, really?
Quarter,
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe a quarter.
Is that low? Okay, I would.
It's tough to quantify. You put out surveys and the response rates and things like that are a little bit challenging. But what I would say is when I was in med school, I was actually on my med school's admissions committee, and that was one of the things we looked for. If somebody had EMS experience, we knew that they know how to talk to a patient already. They already know how to do vitals. They know how to do these like fundamental skills. They might be like softer skills, some of them when you talk to patients, but they also knew basics of patient assessments, and that was actually something we looked for. And now in my role as a physician, I do faculty for our emergency medicine residency, and med students actually look to see if they have an EMS background also, because people that have rotated with us looking to potentially do residency at our facility, there's a difference when they have an EMS background. They talk differently. They have some clinically, they tend to think a little bit differently, and I think it's a positive thing.
Absolutely.
And we have an EMS fellowship at my hospital now too, so now we're trying to, a lot of our candidates and a lot of people that we're looking at really have gone from EMT to maybe a medic in between, but then the physician, and now they're looking to kind of get back on the streets, which is, I think, fantastic. And a lot of people kind of, very similar to me, kind of got launched very early on a trajectory and just stayed on it, and glad I landed where I did, I would say that.
Yeah. We've got a very large medical direction team at university hospitals, and several of our best performing medical directors, if you will, kind of took that path, right? They were previously an EMT or paramedic as part of their college, and then went on to do EMS along with EM or whatever their specialty was, and then subsequently come back and have landed with us.
I think from my perspective, I think what I really gained from the collegiate EMS experience, aside from being able to take care of patients, which is awesome, and I still do it to this day and love it, is I learned in my collegiate EMS career those soft skills as a young adult that I think only EMS can bring. Leadership, management of scenes under crisis, chaos, working in that chaotic environment and focusing in on, the problem at hand, things that are translatable. And then, although my full-time career is no longer medical, I still work as a part-time medic, but as a spill responder, I respond to these large-scale disasters, chemical explosions and fires and things for the federal government, and still have those skills that I developed as part of my collegiate EMS career. The incident management stuff is huge, and it's, and being able to talk to people, make connections with people, and just to say, hey, walk into a fire scene and be like, hi, I'm the dude from the feds, and hey, Mr. Fire Chief, I'm here to help you out. And it's like, who are you again? But being able, the same thing that we experience in collegiate EMS is, that patient handoff, right? That medic that's providing you that backup, use established patient care as an EMT, and some medic from the town comes by and, says, hey, what you got? And providing report and stuff, right?
Absolutely.
That kind of communication. That stuff I developed as a 18-year-old, and it's still applicable to this day. In fact, I would say it's fundamental to how I, how
you've evolved as a pro. Yeah, that's awesome.
And I have one more thing to kind of build on that too. And I know we talked off camera a little bit, and as you were talking, and instantly popped in my head, not only building those communication skills and using those things you're going to use for the rest of your life to be successful, just as a good human being as well, and a care provider. But we talked off camera, and as you were talking to everyone in the room, it was interesting to hear like a startup program, and one of the things that kind of lit up in my mind was think of the education that's now coming to that campus that may not have had collegiate EMS before, but now if you're a startup program, and she mentioned teaching, stop the bleed classes, even if it's a CPR class or if it's a first aid class, to your point, like I think personally that's a huge impact just
That
to that
outreach,
campus,
yeah.
let alone, it's no different than, what we all want to do as EMS providers and medical directors and physicians is how do we get more lay providers? Maybe that person might not join your collegiate EMS team, but they might take your CPR class. They, could help someone in the community. So I think teaching those classes and just you in this organization being so influential to have that startup education, I think is personally huge and a huge takeaway point. Stop the bleed, another huge thing that we teach in schools, to bus drivers, to teachers, to, all these different organizations. And I think that's noteworthy to talk about how impactful just the education you're able to do.
Yeah, and that's what NCEMSF tries to encourage in general. So we all know May is EMS week. We actually have a separate college EMS week in the fall time, usually the first or second week in November, and the first day of that is CPR day. And we encourage campuses really to go out and have different type of celebrations, and a lot of them are teaching CPR, stop the bleed, all those type of things. And we have a couple other programs, one of them that Eric developed in terms of a framework for these campuses to put in emergency management plans and how to actually kind of then from an NCMSF kind of like certify them as saying, hey, you've met the requirements for different tiers of emergency planning. So that's one of the things NCMSF tries to encourage and provides kind of the support for in general. I don't know if you want to talk about EMS Ready Campus.
We have a couple of questions out here, so.
Hi there. I'm actually going on a fairly similar career path, it seems to you. I'm an aspiring engineer who's currently part of an EMS agency at the collegiate level. And I was sort of curious both what steps you took to get to where you are today and what sort of other certifications I can pursue to try and get into some of the incident management, but more on an engineering and environmental impact side.
I have an easy answer to that, actually, which is, for me personally, follow your passions. I never really worried about money. I never really worried about status. I never really worried about anything aside from, hey, this looks cool. Let me go do that. Paramedic school didn't really make any sense for me career path-wise, right? I mean, but.
You want to
holy hell, I love doing it, right? And it happened to, it happened to be my first job in the hazmat world. I think I got it at 24 years old. I was working for, I went in for an interview with New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and they looked at my resume and they said, oh yeah, he's got an engineering degree, and they're a dime a dozen. But he said, what really caught my eye, and that the hiring manager was who managed the whole unit was a cop. He was an NYPD guy on detail, right? And he's like, well, I don't really know much about science. I don't really know much about math. He was a street cop that rose the ranks and then was doing this detail. And he said, I know what a paramedic is, and I know that you can handle yourself on the street, And it so happened that I just, blended my past experiences, I probably shouldn't say this on something that's going to live forever on the internet. I'm not a very good engineer, but I know how to, look at people's strengths, leverage them. I know where to apply, different approaches to problems. And a lot of that is a blend of skills that I learned from EMS, and also, the technical stuff that I learned in school. So yeah, follow your passions, and be interested in what you're interested in, and you'll be happy, I think.
Hi, I was just wondering if you guys have any advice on, first of all, how to find a medical director as a startup organization, but also how to justify the need for having a campus EMS squad when, again, a lot of people, I feel like when we started the idea and reach out to people, a lot of the feedback that we have gotten is that, do we really need it, or what's the justification, and don't we have, obviously, our county EMS and the campus police, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I became Muhlenberg College medical director because I talked with them here at NCEMSF, and they had a medical director at the time. It was more of an absentee medical director, so a name on paper, but not actually somebody who was actively engaged. So they kind of approached me. I also chatted with them because my hospital is like literally 3 miles away from them at that point. So NCEMSF actually helped with that too. And certainly a lot of our staff are physicians, so we tend to have a pretty decent network at this point. So if you're looking for a medical director, chances are that one of us does know somebody kind of in the area, and we can certainly assist with that too. In terms of like justifying yourself to campus, because that's always a struggle, like what's your value to campus, because there are funds that are required for equipment and training and all that type of stuff. One of the biggest things that I recommend is approaching campus and asking them how many times do you call for an ambulance to campus, getting those numbers, because when you're talking to administrators, they're numbers, right? They're numbers people in general. And I can tell you when I was a college EMT, we tracked what our response time was. It was 3 minutes on average to get to a call. We tracked Baltimore City's response time, which was probably 20 minutes to a call, because they're busy. It's tough to get to campus in some of those roads. It's tough to access some of those, the labs down in the basement somewhere in general. If it's rush hour, like try getting an ambulance through city streets. So we said, hey, if there's a real emergency, and when I was a college EMS provider, we did respond to real emergencies to students on campus where time didn't matter. 3 minutes versus 20 minutes. I mean, you tell me. The other thing also is what I liked that my college campus did when I was doing college EMS, when freshmen were coming in, when they were having the orientation, they had sessions for parents also on like drop-off day. And they had the student campus EMTs actually talk to the parents about having a 911 response system, who were certified EMTs, had licenses by the state of Maryland, adhered to Maryland's protocols, available to respond to any student emergencies. So the campus actually leveraged the campus-based EMS to say to the parents, hey, we're providing a safe environment. We have the emergency resources if something happens. We were in a city, so they said we have people on campus dedicated to campus, and that's kind of the value added. So it was actually mutually beneficial, but getting the numbers and knowing the numbers certainly is a great starting point. And then in terms of medical direction, using the network, and that's part of why NCEMSF exists.
Some of the models that we're talking about at the beginning, vary with how, speaks to this question that you had. Sometimes campus EMS is an extension of student health services. Sometimes it's an extension of, campus public safety, security. And sometimes they're a standalone, just literally treated as a club, and finding that right fit, maybe student health services doesn't want anything to do with it. But that doesn't, you go talk to a campus police chief, it's like, oh, you want to do what? And we're going to get, early access to defibrillation, and, we can help, you can be around campus and stuff. That makes a lot of sense to some public safety guy, Sure. So it's really having conversations, not even pitching anything, but finding people that are like-minded, and honestly, it sells itself. I mean, it makes sense. There's so many benefits, and it's just a matter of finding a staff member, a faculty advisor, whatever, that sees the value and kind of almost thinks the same way.
Resonates with them, yeah.
Yeah, I think I think to your point too, and what I'm hearing from everyone is they have the drive to start this, and I think that's amazing. So build your team, utilize the data to essentially, for a lack of a better word, I don't want to use the word pitch it or promote it, but as you start to have more followership or your organization grows, then I really cannot see the downfall in the organization for the campus or the college not supporting you, because it is a safer campus now, which, for parents, that should be excellent. For administration on that standpoint.
It's a draw, yeah.
It's a draw to say, this is an amazing service that our college has that not every single college has. So it's a safer campus for the students, for the staff. I mean, it should be a drive for administration to support it, in my opinion.
And that's sometimes the challenge, because not all administrators like see it that way. And that's what kind of like blows our
Yeah,
mind
right,
half the
exactly.
time. And it's like sometimes banging your head against the wall, because there's been a couple of startups that they've gotten so close, and then the administration at the very end will kind of shoot it down. And that's where, at least in NCEMSF, we try to kind of, just because of our resources and the network and things like that, if somebody's around that can actually help and liaison and kind of make it seem less scary to like an administrator who does not know what EMS is, then that's where we can kind of step in and kind of assist in that way too. And it's always challenging too with these college EMS squads. Every 4 years, your team is completely different. Your unit is completely different. That's one of those other unique things too. And the longevity is challenging. And sometimes administrators, see these cycles, and that's what's sometimes a barrier for them too.
Yeah.
I don't know if, just the educational aspect of it, I don't know how many of you guys have had a leadership role at your past agencies, but can you imagine being a second year EMT and then being the chief of the
Being the
department?
chief of the department, yeah, no,
Right?
that's,
And I mean, what did you learn as an administrator for an agency, and then just translate that to you doing the same thing except at 20 years old?
Yeah.
Right?
I certainly wasn't there.
No, definitely not.
And,
I think she had some follow-up.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, guys. I guess as a follow-up, do you have any suggestions for funding when it comes to starting a campus EMS squad and trying to get that going?
Yeah, so that's it's challenging where the funding comes from, because every school is a little bit different. A lot of organizations, a lot of EMT organizations end up being classified as like student organizations on campus and get funding through kind of that avenue in general. It's challenging because a lot of times the administration will look at now the campus-based EMS the same way as dance club and all these other organizations that maybe are not like emergency services and not as, they're just different, right?
Impactful,
They're
yeah.
just two kind of completely different things. So sometimes it even limits funding also. Sometimes the health center can be a source of funding also. Sometimes they can kind of allocate certain funds. Sometimes, so Muhlenberg College came to us and they're like, hey, we need some equipment in general. So our hospital actually donated a bunch of equipment. And Muhlenberg College is kind of unique because I'm not only their medical director, but our one of our emergency preparedness, head of emergency preparedness for my hospital system is also NCEMSF staff. So we have two people who kind of get campus-based EMS, so we can find resources to be a little bit creative in general. So those are some of the avenues, but everybody is a little bit different, which makes it another unique challenge of kind of campus-based EMS also, because we know things like, I remember purchasing EpiPens when I was the equipment lieutenant at 20 years old with a couple years of EMS experience, and now that would, I think, be pretty much our entire budget if we did EpiPens. So, going to check and inject Epi is what we did at Muhlenberg College because PA allows us to do it. Most states do also. So sometimes you have to get creative with the funding because sometimes it is a set amount of funding. And usually it's not as much as like an EMS agency, an outside agency.
It's definitely something that for a startup organization, it's a growth thing, right? It's not, it's interesting. We see from our perspective a lot of students coming here, first year, and they're like, how do we get an ambulance, right? And it usually doesn't go from 0 to 1,000 overnight, but. I think one of the most successful ones that schools that we've seen over our time period has been at the University of Pennsylvania, and it started with an idea, and now it's a very mature kind of bicycle-based quick response. Did they get a vehicle yet? I don't know, but it's been like a 15-year process, and now they have something like 80 members and all EMT trained. They do tons of campus. Safety type of things, bystander CPR, just awareness things.
And a lot of campus-based agencies start as just event medicine because campuses are primed for events, larger events, sporting events. I mean, a quick anecdote from this past year, the chief of Muhlenberg College EMS called me the Sunday before Election Day. He's a senior, 22 years old. And he's like, Zack, I just got off the phone with Secret Service. And I'm like, where the heck is this going? Like, where's the conversation going? He's like, we have a presidential candidate coming to campus in Allentown, Pennsylvania on Monday, tomorrow, the day before the election. They're going to be based in they're doing this rally in our gymnasium. We are apparently, as a student organization, the only organization that's going to be in the building. So can you liaison with the surrounding ALS transport agencies and like, what do we do? And I was like, that is impressive, first of all, that Secret Service got your name, got your number, called you and said, hey, can you take care of this for us? That is awesome. I was like, what do you guys need from me? So a big event, about 24 hours to plan for. We were able to get one of our docs there with them too, but they were, as a college EMS organization with a presidential candidate on campus in their building, the responding organization responsible for everybody kind of in that building, which is awesome. That kind of, these events happen on campus all the time, and starting there and then kind of building and knowing all of your connections is key.
We got another question over here.
Yeah, I got a quick question. With motivation, that's the biggest thing we're seeing. We got 54 EMTs, but to keep them motivated because they have a busy schedule. Have you seen a downward trend in volunteering to help out? Or do you have, we've had to find ways to get them motivated. Does that seem to be a problem amongst the different campuses?
Yeah, it's completely different everywhere, to be honest with you. But the conversations at the roundtables at this conference a lot of times are about how do we incentivize providers to volunteer. And a lot of times when we're talking about campus-based EMS, we're talking about, do we give them like a food stipend? So do they have like food on campus for free because they're volunteering? Do they have free dorm rooms or like a house that they can all kind of live in? Do they get priority registration for classes? So a lot of campuses have kind of gone to those models that incentivize it. But certainly it's tough because you're dedicating a ton of time as a student to volunteering, and you're there to get a degree and study and all of that. So it's been a little bit different kind of everywhere in general, but there is a trend, it seems like, to different campuses trying to incentivize and give some advantages to doing volunteer-based campus EMS, because there are very few organizations that bill for their services at least campus-based.
I think that it's very program dependent, right? If you offer a good showing, just like any club, if there's a draw to it, then people will come. I know, for example, Case Western just recently, I think last semester, they were able to bring in, I think, something like 20 EMTs into their organization, and that's only that was the cap because there's only so many training slots.
Right.
Training brand new EMTs, and they'll bring in another 20 next semester.
Yep.
But literally, people banging down the door. I think they had like 60 applicants, so people already certified as EMTs. Trying to have this experience.
Yep.
And they do a lot of outreach. They do a lot of continuing education. They do a lot of, I think they'll do tours and, work with other agencies. I've heard that they might have done something recently with UH AirMed where they just stopped by.
I believe that happened, yeah.
Yeah, so, I think they're not necessarily doing a lot of calls. It's 300 calls a year or something, 400 calls a year. But, they've got a membership base in, nearly 100 people. I think it just varies. If you have a product, I don't want to call it a product, but if you have a, activity or an organization that seems cool, I think that's step one, right?